has now ended, and he defended his position on the Today programme this morning.
I've been accused of poor judgment. When 4 days into a relationship, I didn't know what she was putting out on direct Facebook messages and on her Twitter.
But maybe
messages.
The poor judgment
so it's
was
interesting.
Maybe the
idea.
Poor judgment was taking up with her in the way you did, as publicly as you did, and as quickly as you did.
Yes, it was. It happened the way that it did. There was no intent to deceive anybody, and indeed, the day that we realised that we'd been photographed together, we immediately made a statement, because I had absolutely no wish to deceive anybody or hide anything.
Henry Bolton there. Well, we're joined now from Shrewsbury by the former Deputy Chair of UKIP, Suzanne Evans. Welcome to the Daily Politics. Suzanne, should Henry Bolton go?
Unfortunately, I think he should. And I say that with a very heavy heart, because the last thing we need is another leadership election. We had great hopes for Henry Bolton. He promised us he'd be the sensible, safe pair of hands after a very rough journey over the last couple of years with so many different leaders. But unfortunately, he wasn't, was he? So I don't think he has much choice. I think it would probably be better for him if he were to actually resign. But if he doesn't, I fear that the special meeting that's been called on Sunday of our National Executive Committee, where I gather there's going to be a vote of no confidence against him tabled, I suspect that that vote will be won.
Right. You say he should go because he hasn't been sensible either. What has he actually done wrong in your mind?
I think he's brought the party into disrepute, and certainly people have been kicked out of the party for that in the past. I think he's shown, as was questioned on the Today programme this morning, I think he's shown an astonishing lack of judgment. I understand that when he was involved in the leadership campaign, he portrayed himself as a family man, a capable man, a man who would do the right thing. And I think many of us are questioning, notwithstanding the fact that politicians, of course, have a right to a private life. I think if you put yourself in the public eye, you're held up to higher standards. And I think he has left his wife, apparently, for a woman who is younger than his youngest daughter, who has turned out to hold some very reprehensible views. I wonder actually what he means by saying he's ended the romantic side of their relationship. Does this mean he's going to carry on taking her counsel on matters? The mind rather boggles. I think it's all very embarrassing. It's once again brought the party into disrepute. It's deeply upsetting.
I mean, what's it going to achieve, though, having yet another leadership contest, since if he goes as well, that will be 4 leaders since the referendum, not counting the interims. Does it just show that you cannot get a sensible person to run the party, to use your words?
I absolutely dispute that. I'm sure we can. I think the problem has actually been that Nigel Farage has had far too much influence in choosing successive leaders of UKIP. He was a great leader. He never really had a successor. He's backed several candidates. In fact, he's backed all the candidates in the last 4 leadership elections that we've had, candidates that have failed. And I think that's a shame. I think his influence has perhaps meant that the wrong candidates have been selected. And we had Diane James, who lasted just 18 days and it just got worse after that.
And do you think if he hadn't had as much influence, you might be the leader of UKIP now, Suzanne Evans?
Well, I think I might have been. Yes, I think that's right. But, Nigel Farage decreed that I should never be leader of UKIP, and thus it shall be, I'm afraid.
So you're not going to stand if there is another leadership election?
No. Absolutely no point. Absolutely no point, for the reasons I've just outlined. I think it costs £5,000 to stand in a leadership election for UKIP, if nothing else. I've already lost that once. I'm not prepared to lose it again. I've got better ways to spend my money. I think that's a disgrace, actually, by the way, for a party of the people to charge, so-called party of the people, to charge so much for somebody to stand in a leadership election. And
do you worry that Nigel Farage might do another U-turn and stand again? If there were a vacancy.
He might well. If there were a vacancy, I gather he has ruled it out at the moment. He'd have to weigh up his own pros and cons very carefully, of course. I suppose on the plus side, he's losing his job as an MEP shortly. On the downside, though, he'd have to give up the media career that he's clearly trying to forge for himself. I imagine that would be quite a wrench for him.
Right. Why are you still in the party, Suzanne?
Well, you know, Joe, I don't quit just when the going gets tough. I still think there is a need for UKIP in British politics. I want to make sure that we get out of the European Union properly, not just in name only, that we actually do fully take back control and leave properly. And I think we need a party like UKIP to keep snapping at the heels of the government, who don't always seem to be grasping the metal and capitulating a little bit too much to the EU for mine, and I think most UKIPers liking. So I think it's important to keep fighting that good fight.
Suzanne Evans, thank you very much.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.